And we are live. I'm taking over hosting duties now. Bill running into some technical difficulties. We got
Yeah.
we got the phone stream going on right now.
What a mess. Yeah, that is a bad time to hop onto the Spectrum app and say, hey, there's going to be an outage until about 1 a.m. Not good. I don't know if anyone in the town of Tonawanda also has Spectrum, but I've been having a horrible time. And past couple nights, been doing pretty well. And of course, the night we try to live stream, get hit right over the head with it. So, well, let's do round two. Let's do round two. Where were we?
I think we were on. I don't even. I feel like we barely got started. So
No, we
I feel
we
like.
really didn't. Yeah.
So yeah, we could. I think we started with. Oh, we started with the Kessler trade. I think that was like the
Yes.
first topic.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, let's just rehash that in a way where I think at this point, like we knew what was going to happen, but I just felt like the situation could have been handled better. And you do want to give your flowers to like a Zach Metza for really earning his spot, but long term, especially with Byram walking out the door as well, it's like, oh crap, I really wish Kesselring didn't leave either. If he had I mean, he
Yeah.
kind of pretty much has made his mind up, and I'm sure the team didn't necessarily appreciate some of the things they heard about him, letting people know that he wasn't exactly happy. But I don't know. I wish it went better. But again, if you're looking at the trade overall, Kesselring and Doan for Paterka, Doan and Paterka is it, and Kesselring's just an added
Yeah.
bonus. So it is what it is. I'm not exactly happy about it, but what are you going to do kind of thing. And so it's more the situation than the trade itself. So is there anything else you wanted to add on that? I know we kind of went over that one before we went down the first time.
Yeah. I mean, really not much. I just think he's a guy who I almost think his reputation was kind of greater than the value he brought to this team, at least in terms of
Yeah.
people viewing the Custering situation from outside the organization. Like at the end of the day, he's like a fourth through sixth defenseman on a good team. I don't know how much higher his ceiling is because he does turn like 27 years old next season. I feel like a lot of people talk about him like he's like
Yeah.
22, but he is an
Yep.
older defenseman. He probably won't be much more than he is right now. Like, obviously, I wish him the best elsewhere, but I just think, if he's the one casualty of having Lindy Ruff as a head coach, I'd be willing to accept that.
Does does kind of feel that way, doesn't it? It
Yeah.
just kind of seems like Lindy didn't like it, and he obviously ended up, not liking what was going on. It just not great. I mean, the physical tools are all there. The skating, the size, the reach, the shot. It just didn't really work out, and no ill will towards him, but it's just like I don't know. The situation could have been handled better on both sides, and it was unfortunate with injuries. That's not something you can really help with. So, you know, clean
Yeah.
break. We got Doan, got him locked up, and let's move on from there. So speaking of moving on, let's get right into the Byram trade. Chicago. Not like I have any sympathy for Chicago. I don't think I'll ever have too much sympathy for Chicago, but what are you doing, man? And again, like the Sabres are giving up a good player in Bowen Byram. Let's not get that twisted. They're Alex Tuch, good player, and he's gone. Bowen Byram, good player, and now he's gone. It's very clear that he wasn't going to sign here, and it was very clear that well, I thought it was very clear that he wasn't going to sign necessarily anywhere. Now he's saying he wants to be in Chicago. We'll see. But that's a fleecing from the Sabres any way you cook it. And I understand you just like, okay, now you have to bring some guys in to kind of fill the void. But whoa, what was your initial reaction? And were you like me, where you're still stunned like an hour or two later? You're like, I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my initial reaction was really just disbelief. Like I remember just logging on and seeing Byron for fourth overall. I remember thinking, "Oh wow, I hope the Sabres didn't have to part with like another big piece along with Byram to get that fourth overall pick." And then I saw, oh, the 45th overall pick's going back to Buffalo too. And then I'm like, oh wow, did they really get all this for Byram straight up? And then I think I saw Greenway was included. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, they literally just got like a cap dump. They probably tried executing this offseason as well, part of the deal too. And then I saw Louis Crevier too. And I'm like, they have like a Logan Stanley replacement for like a lower cost than what Stanley will probably sign for. And I was just like, how is this possible? Like, do they not know who Bowen Byram is? And I know Byram too. He probably also has like a great reputation around the league just because, obviously higher draft pick, won the cup with Colorado, decent point production this year. I think he was on a lot of people's radar again after seeing him, play on the Sabres team playing well. And, he played well in the playoffs too in that Boston series. So I think he was on a lot of people's radar again. But I just think Sabres cut tie at the perfect time because if he really wanted to be a number one defenseman, that obviously was never going to happen in Buffalo. Like straight up, never going to happen in Buffalo. Like Dahlin's not going anywhere. Power is not going anywhere. Never would happen in Buffalo. And then really just the money he wanted too. It's like, even if he was willing to settle for a 3D role, I'm not paying a third defenseman $11 million unless they're an all-around beast. He's more of just an offensive defenseman. Wasn't that great defensively in the playoffs. So yeah, I think really it kind of shows Yarmo's, he knows what he wants. He's not going to settle for stuff just because he has to. And I think we saw that a lot with Sabres teams in the past where the prospect system was pretty garbage. No one on the verge of making the NHL roster. So you have to be like, let me sign Jeff Skinner to this massive contract. And now you can just be like, well, we have a ton of assets to add another defenseman if we need to. We're not going to settle for that player's price. We're going to try to find someone else.
I agree with everything you said. I mean, everyone we don't have any different thoughts on the Byram trade. It's like, holy crap, can't believe that happened. That's crazy value. Sounds like I saw a rumor he was going to do something like 4 years, 12 to 13 million is what he's like looking for. Or so then again, that could just be a rumor. It's just what I saw in passing, but it's just like, oh my God, we're the Sabres' third defenseman, which again, he had one good year and, we don't know what brings next year, but Mattias Samuelson's making like 4.28 or something like that. That's such a stark difference, man. Like that gives you such an advantage, especially after this coming season, once that Skinner buyout is a lot less hefty. I guess let's just keep it with the trades now. Alex Tuch did a sign and trade, 8 years, 10.5 million, and is off to Washington. The Sabres get back a third round pick and the signing rights to David Kampf, who is basically just like a defensive forward.
Yeah, I saw that. I was
third,
like,
fourth line.
wow, that's so random. But I know he could be a useful piece for the Sabres, though. Is he still? How old is he? Like I haven't had time to look it up.
If I had internet right now, I could tell you, and I'm not going to start pounding away on my
31
phone here. But
I could have sworn.
I thought he was like 29 to be completely honest with you, but 31, that's fine. I mean, like we have Sam Carrick, who I'm still excited about being their fourth line center, and he's what, 34? But he doesn't necessarily play like a 34-year-old, and he's good on draws. And David Kampf is very much, I saw, oh boy, who was it? But basically, one of those analytics people put out like he's not going to bring you anything offensively, but he's very good defensively. And look, like is that kind of like your Greenway replacement there? Greenway was not an offensive player at all, but he was solid defensively, could play on the penalty kill as well. Like all the guys that the Sabres have gotten rid of in the past, week, I'd like just no ill will towards. Last offseason, it was JJ Peterka, a lot of ill will. This one is like Kesselring is like, man, that really sucks that didn't work out. Byram is just like, man, like I didn't expect you to sign that 2-year contract. I thought you were going to get traded beforehand. Then you look at the package that got back and you're like, holy crap. And Tuch, it was very clear he wasn't going to sign here. Whether you like it or not, he wasn't going to sign here. It just wasn't going to work out. And it didn't make sense for the Sabres or Tuch to back down.
Yeah, I do.
I thought he was going to go out west. I don't really see Washington. I'm not saying it's a bad destination. I'm just a little surprised by that.
I just think Tuch he just strikes me as someone where if the Sabres like kind of sucked this year, or if they were like, say like the 8th, 9th worst team in the NHL again, I do think he would have been someone that they probably would have signed and he probably would have stayed here too because they would have had the money for him. They would have been in free fall, kind of just trying to keep guys that want to be here to stay here. So it was almost, he's almost a victim of the Sabres being really good this year with him not getting that contract because I think Sabres realize they have more options.
Yeah, and I think even with the hesitation on can Uslan stay healthy for an entire season, hell knows it was only a small sample size. Yuri Kulik, I mean, knock on wood, I'm praying that is he able to play again at a high level? Um, but I mean, like if you're going to take a dice roll on two or three players, like those are some solid players to try to put in those positions and see if they succeed. And again, like the offseason isn't over either. There's still all this time until the draft. Then there's draft night and draft weekend. And then there's free agency where, other trades can happen as well. And Walt, I think the Sabres did well to get what they did for Tuch when it was very clear he wasn't going to sign here. That's another good piece of asset management but it isn't oh my God, no one wants to sign here in Buffalo. It's just like, yeah, like we said, it just didn't make
Yeah.
sense for either side to do that. Um, but yeah, I think I don't want to say like a reckoning, but like something else is going to happen. Something else has to happen. And this is what leads me into there's been word about a certain Toronto Maple Leaf potentially that is either being talked about or maybe has been talked about. One Matthew Nyes. Do you put any credence into the rumors and what do you think his value is? Because I am someone, and I want to talk about Nyes and I want to also talk about this. The fourth overall pick to me, the last time a top five pick that was known as a top five pick, we know exactly what pick this is, and it was traded was what, 18 years ago? I'm Once you kind of get a top five pick, I'm very, at least for me, unless it's going to blow you away, I'm very unwilling to actually trade that. And I would very much prefer that they package 20, 45, and maybe one of those young guys if they want to get a winger like a Matthew Nice. So, Walt, two questions. One, what are your thoughts on like the rumors about Matthew Nice? What do you think about him as a player? And what do you think about the value? And where do you stand on the draft picks, not only for Nice, but in general on would you trade for the fourth overall? Are you looking to trade the 20th way more than the fourth like me? I just wanted to get your thoughts on those two things.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting situation because I really think it's odd that Toronto's trying to shop Matthew Nyes in the first place because he's still a young
They
forward. Like,
they tried to shop him at the deadline too, because there was that deal that
yeah,
fell through for Montreal, which if the Sabres get Knies and Montreal doesn't, like just a little
yeah.
laughing moment, even though they got the best of us. But yeah, I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Well, yeah, I just think, yeah, I think at the time they traded Montreal because Toronto had no idea they were going to win the lottery. They probably thought they'd get like the fourth, fifth overall pick at the time, probably even like sixth, seventh. Like they probably thought they could have went on like a little run at the end and moved up their draft pick a bit. I don't really think they're expecting it the first overall pick, and then when they do land that, I'd almost be thinking if I'm Toronto, like Nyes is 23 years old. That's not that much older than Gavin McKenna. I would kind of
Yeah,
try to keep him around at least to grow with McKenna because a lot of the other guys, like Matthews, is going to be 29 like in a few months. Nylander's going to enter his 30s. It's just, I don't know. It seems like Nyes would be the guy you try to keep. So it is kind of weird that they're shopping him. I do think it makes sense for Toronto to try to acquire fourth overall because then you'll have another piece that will come up the ranks with McKenna or maybe another year in juniors or college and he comes up right behind McKenna. But yeah, there's clearly some smoke between the Sabres and Leafs in terms of Nyes, and you'd have to guess the fourth overall pick is a part of that. But yeah, I'm with you. I would much rather give up the 20th, Mertka, really a bunch of other pieces before I try to shop that fourth overall pick. And I'm not even that huge on some of the guys I could draft fourth overall because it does seem like after kind of that McKenna Stenberg group,
yeah,
it kind of gets like a little dicey after, even if Malhotra goes third to Vancouver, which it seems like some people think. And then you're kind of left with the group where it's like some teams may have Chase Reed as a top guy left. Some teams may have Chase Reed as a third best defenseman left at fourth overall.
Right.
Some guys may have Carroll's ahead, or I just
For
I don't know.
Smits, what is his name? Albert Smits from
Smiths
Latvia, I
too,
believe.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then you just got like there's really no consensus, so it's kind of weird because I think all the past drafts, like in the draft last year, we had like Porter Martone, where it's like if this guy's there at like 4 or 5, I'm taking him. And then before that, it was
Mhm.
Demidov. If this guy's there at 4 or 5, I'm taking him. Before that, you can probably even argue Michkov hasn't had the most stellar NHL career so far. It's still been a pretty solid NHLer. He'd probably be a guy where if you're the fourth or fifth overall pick, you're taking Michkov. I just think with this draft, you may not necessarily have that, but I do put a ton of trust into the Sabres scouting department
Yeah.
just based on their body of work the past few years, especially with their first overall picks. It seems like they hit at a much higher rate than other teams. Maybe it's just luck, but at some point, it's got to be skill. The more and more you hit on these first overall picks.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's especially someone like a hat off to Jerry Fortin. You know, he's not the face of everything, but it's clear that they trust him heavily in the draft process, especially Kevin Adams. I still remember Jerry getting a little emotional about, kind of how
Yeah.
everything goes, and it obviously meant a lot to him. And he's able to, uh, not, I don't want to say throw his weight around, but like really use his influence and his knowledge for people, and clearly people within the organization trust that and trust the work. And it starts from the scouts that are spending their random November nights watching VHL hockey over in Russia or whatever it is. So just kind of that entire apparatus, they've done pretty well drafting, I'd say. Now, when it comes to, let's get a little bit into the draft stuff. We're going to kind of fly all over the place now that we talked about some trades and whatnot. Um, when it comes to the draft, fourth overall, Sabres have to choose fourth overall, and they have to choose 20th. What are two names that you're looking at? Because like the fourth one is going to be the one that people are really looking, what do you think in Chase Reed or whomever? But that 20th pick, let's just pretend that the Sabres do, no trades do come about and they do make both picks. Who are some names that you're looking for at fourth overall that you would like the Sabres to take? Not who you think the Sabres would take, but who you would like the Sabres to take at both fourth and 20th.
I think for me, I was kind of talking about this like before I even knew the Sabres had this pick. I was like, the Sabres are bad this year. I think Vigo Bjork would 100% be a Sabres type prospect. I think if I'm another team in the NHL and I kind of try to replicate the Sabres rise this past season, I target guys like Vigo Bjork, just a guy that's overlooked because of his size, just a guy that has extremely high IQ. Uh, Kind of a type of player who, like Sidney Crosby was praising him after that World Championship game. Like
Yeah.
those would be the type of guys I want. Like we kind of had equivalent to that with Consta Helenus at this World Championships with Barkov praising him. Like
Mhm.
anytime you have an insanely intelligent, legendary hockey player that kind of successful based on their IQ praising a younger player like that, I think you have to listen. And I think he's a guy who's kind of in that range. I think Bjork's someone who I don't know if Sabres fans will still be like, "Oh, man, we only draft small guys." Like, after how well these guys have played the past playoffs, I know there'll still be a few
They just, they
people
just
that
traded for
certainly act like that. But,
they just traded for 6'8" defensemen, so like relax.
yeah.
I don't want to hear it.
It happens every time, though. It's like they trade for some dudes like 7'2", like the first ever 7'2" NHLer, but
Yeah.
they draft a 5'10" guy, and like, "Oh, no, yeah, this team's falling apart."
I mean, like I've I do understand the, drafting for like a specific, like this guy will fill a specific role no matter, whenever he gets here. But like I have been on the just draft the best player available skill wise and then like add your beef elsewhere through free
Yeah.
agency or trades or whatever, because it's usually easier to do that. You're
Well,
going
look
to
at
pay more
Chicago.
when it comes to skill.
Look at Chicago with drafting Artem Levshunov that high in the draft, and they should have probably just went with Demidov, who was pretty clearly the BPA there. And would be great on Bedard's wing, but yeah, they
Yep.
tried targeting need over just BPA, and that'll kill you at the top of the draft even more so than the 8 to 10 range. Like when you're drafting fourth overall and you go like drafting based on position, like that's the biggest mistake you can make in the NHL. So I think that brings me to that point where, yeah, I think Sabres should just trust their board. I don't think they should be like, oh, we're a little light on defense prospects. Let's use
Yeah.
fourth overall and a defenseman. Like if that's not your top guy, it's not your top guy. Fourth overall pick's way too valuable to force a position based pick. You really just have to go BPA.
Yarmo came out and said, like, I don't believe in that. I'm going best player available because in 4 years you might need that forward anyway. You think you have a ton of or defenseman. They might take a
Yeah,
defenseman. They're like, we had him as our best player available, and who knows, 3 years from now, when he's ready to go, or 2 years from now when he's ready to go, it could be a different situation. Things change very quickly. The Sabres in one foul swoop, Kesselring, Byram, Tuch, and Greenway are all gone. That said, guess who ain't going anywhere? Zach frickin' Benson, baby. We didn't talk about this yet. This just came out
yeah.
when the internet was going all crazy on our first attempt on the live stream. Zach frickin' Benson, baby. 7 years, 7.5 per. Little tweak that we couldn't get the eighth year. Not going to hold it against him, though. No, obviously, it's not that big of a deal. He signed for the same amount of Doan, Darlene, and I think Power, if I'm not mistaken. I wish my internet was working to tell you guys pull up Puckpedia, but I believe all of them have their contracts running to the same time. So Benson's going to be here for a while, guys. And that's a beautiful thing. Walt, what are your thoughts?
I think for me, like we were talking about this probably in season, and we are trying to guess what Benson's contract to be. And I remember saying I think it's going to be at least 8 because I think he's going to see that Doan contract and be like, well, I'm a little bit younger of a player. I probably have a higher ceiling just because of a little bit more runway. And we did talk about that playoff tax too. He was dynamite in the playoffs, and that seems to be what teams
Oh, so
value
much
in these
better.
contracts. So I think for me, I think his contract's an absolute steal. Like 7.5 million. I would have paid him 7.5 million if we were in 2019 right now. And now the cap's like almost $20 million higher, 20% higher than it was then. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think for me, I think it's an absolute steal. Like I still think he has so much more to show, especially offensively. I think he's finally getting down that you don't always have to have an elite shot to beat the goalie to score goals. You can just throw the puck on net, be deceptive, and beat the goalie that way. We even saw that with some goals he scored down the stretch. And then, yeah, in terms of playmaking and stuff, that's always been there. He'll always get points through that. And more power play time, too. He's going to get more power play points. And I think very quickly he's going to be a guy that's one of the Sabres' consistent top offensive threats. And he's built for playoff hockey. I just know watching the game through the lens as a fan, just watching that whole Montreal series, I felt so much more comfortable and confident when Zach Benson was on the ice. And it's crazy to say that about a hockey player that just turned 21 years
Well,
old.
dude, we were saying that about him when he was 18 years old with like disbelief. Like,
Yeah.
I can't believe like one of our best players is a freaking rookie. But like power play, penalty kill. He's definitely going to be penalty killing.
Yeah.
He's going to be on the ice in the last minute of these big games. You got him for $7.5 million a season. I personally was hoping for 8 years, $7 million per. Am I going to cry over $500,000 a season? No, no, I'm not. It's not worth it. Zach Benson's good. Now it is on him. He's got the raise. Now it's time for you to raise your level and score more, put up more points, and really shut the people up. What else do you want from this kid? He's scrappy. He doesn't necessarily get into fights, but like he does his job on that side of the game. He's a smart player. He's setting up teammates all the time. Incredible forechecker. Just kind of like your like lovable idiot. Every team needs one of those. Even our team. Hi, I'm the lovable idiot. You know, um, it's like this is a good deal. This is a really good deal. I haven't seen any responses too much besides positive ones, but any negative responses are you're in the minority. And good luck, hanging out on that hill by yourself because I have to assume that everyone's loving this deal just like we do. So, anything else on Zach Benson? That's just a great work from Yarmo again on these trades and then this draft pick. I will say, let's remember my comments about Kevin Adams when he was making all these trades, selling off assets. It's very easy to sell assets. It's very hard to like essentially get good players back. I didn't really say that in the best way possible. I really wish I phrased that better. Public speaking might not be my forte after all these years, but like that's the
No,
thing
no,
where it's
yeah, I
like,
understand.
yeah, like it's you're selling off assets, which is like the easier part, and especially if
Yeah.
someone's going to give you frickin' fourth overall for Bowen Byram. That's wild stuff. So yeah, man, I they're in a good spot, but there's work to be done. There's names, Nyes, Vincent Trocheck's been his name's out there. Jason Robertson to maybe a smaller degree, but he's looking for big money, it sounds like too. Like, what
Yeah,
names are
they
you
said
looking?
like he rumored to turn down like 8 by 12 million. Like I don't know
Just
if I want to go that much above that on him.
those higher numbers we will have to get used to in the coming
Yeah.
years. I'm just not ready to get used to it now. Not this season. And we get Robertson, he plays out of his mind. Then you're like, yeah, let's pay him 12 mil or 12.5 mil or 13. And maybe our tune changes, but right now I'm just a little hesitant on it. So who's out there? Who do you think is actually attainable without trading the fourth overall pick? Because that's what we don't want to do. And now this, if the Sabres do, it'd be a little surprising, but they can. Who's out there? Who's Tuch's replacement? And you know what? Not only that, I did want to ask you, chips are down. Walt, you have to trade one guy. Who are you trading? Noah Oslin or Konsta Helenius? Let's answer that first, and then let's get into the more overall discussion of other guys they can bring in.
I think for me it's gotta be Oslin. Really just because I know I was taking some heat from this like earlier on, like kind of in the playoffs where I was just like Helenius has so much more runway left than Oslin does. I think some people forget like how much older Oslin is than Helenius because Helenius plays like he's like 32 years old and like he has like four kids and like lives on a farm in Finland. But yeah, he's really just especially after the World Championships too. I'm like, the sky's the limit with this kid, and I love how like Barkov kind of talked about him too. The fact that he's able to play on a line with Barkov,
And
really
look
just
fun.
seeing. Anytime I tweet about the guy, there's so many just like people from Finland that are just like all over positive content regarding this guy. Like I think in Finland, this guy is extremely hyped up too as kind of their next top prospect because it's been kind of quiet in terms of elite prospects coming out of Finland recently. So I I don't know. I just think the sky's the limit with him. I love the way he played that Montreal series. I thought he really changed the momentum of that series just with the way he was able to play down the middle. Center situation in Buffalo is looking kind of dicey. If you could have a guy like Helenius, who I think is a little bit more translatable to being a full time NHL center, I think you just got to keep a guy like that and really bet on his runway because if he hits his ceiling, Sabres are going to be good for a very long time.
hmm And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if the chips are down. Okay, let's get into the other question I was leading up before I stopped myself on it. Other names that are out there. And obviously it's, tell me what the trade package is, or tell me, if we sign a guy, what the contract is, and I'll tell you if it's good or not. But I'm just going to throw out some names and, we can discuss. The first one, just because you said centers, and I would like to see them maybe add another center. I didn't love Ryan McLeod's season, especially like the playoffs, and it felt like he kind of fell off a little bit. And again, I'm not saying this. We're not going like, oh, maybe it really was Erat for Forsberg. No, we're not going back to that. I
Yeah.
think we put that to bed.
No,
It's
Matt
not
Larkin's
that.
forgiven for his sins.
Yeah. Sorry, Matt. I didn't mean it, but like, it wasn't great. The first season was better, so maybe I'm interested, and especially with Norris. Like, sorry, man, I can't depend on you. If you're in the lineup, great, but we don't expect you to be in the lineup all that much, unfortunately. Unfortunately, it sucks, man. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. Vincent Trocheck, what are your thoughts?
I'd go no there. Because I know he was a name that came up a lot today, and I know anybody that even touched that U.S. jersey during that Olympic run is automatically somewhat a little overhyped in my book, just because I'm an American. I'm a USA hockey fan. They definitely didn't deserve to win that gold medal game, and I think them winning that gold medal game has given a lot of those guys way too much confidence. And not saying Trocheck is a part of that, but I think he's someone whose kind of reputation around the league is kind of way greater than what he brings to the table, especially at this stage of his career. I know like face-offs and stuff, that stuff matters, but doesn't matter enough to get killed at 5-on-5. I don't really think it does, because a lot more of the game's played not in the face-off dot than it is. So I can see the argument for it. I think the cost of what it would take to get him plus his timeline not really perfectly lining up with what the Sabres need. He's just someone that I'd prefer to look elsewhere on. If he was like 28, maybe I'd change my answer, but he
Okay.
really just hasn't been playing outstanding hockey the past few years, even though his point totals have been decent.
Okay. I mean, we kind of talked about like Nyes, but there Brandon Carlo, I keep seeing his name come up. Just in speculation.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
saying I'm
just
not
like
saying, reporters are saying this or anything like that. Any thoughts on him just as a player? And again, of course, with everything, it matters what the trade package is and how much you're paying him and all that stuff, because it's, you fleece Toronto for Carlo or whatever, and you're like, oh, this is great. But you feel like you overpaid to Toronto for him, and you're like, oh my God, this is terrible. So we're trying to remove that from this. What do you think of the player, Brandon Carlo?
I he's another guy where I think in my mind he's just a guy. Like I don't even know how
Yeah.
much like is he that much better than Louis Crevier where you part with like a first round pick to get Carlo? Because I just think like what's Toronto's ask for him going to be? Because this Cheka, I know he wasn't the guy that made that initial trade, but does he want fans to be like, oh, the Leafs gave up all this for Carlo and then they just traded him to Buffalo for whatever that package ends up being?
Yeah.
I think for me it's tricky. I do think if he's included in a package with Nyes and he's a part of a larger deal, I'd be willing to test that out. But if he's just like a solo trade and Sabres give assets for him, I'm kind of like I think you can find a better option elsewhere and an option that wouldn't cost as much trade wise.
All right. Trying to really think outside the box here, and I don't know why his name came up. Maybe he was in a rumor, maybe I'm just making this up. Correct me if I'm wrong. Someone like maybe Owen Tippett from Philadelphia. Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought I saw his name out there, but maybe I'm wrong. Definitely not Konechny or anything like that, but I thought someone from Philadelphia, and I thought it was Owen Tippett. Maybe
No,
like an
yeah,
Owen Tippett. I'm thinking of wingers.
yeah. I mean, for me, Owen Tippett, I'm finally going to be like, I think this would be a good addition for the Sabres because I don't think the cost would be insane. He's a
Okay.
very fast player, has a good shot. He's kind of like has a Sabresy vibes in that regard, not in like the dog regard, but kind of like those Sabres teams from 2, 3 years ago where he's just electric on the rush. And I think the Sabres have enough guys now where it's like maybe we have to add some firepower in that regard to this team because we do have a lot of dogs on this team. We do have a lot of guys that can win battles.
Hmm.
Maybe try to add a guy that's speedy and has a decent shot to this group and see where that takes you. I think that wouldn't be that bad of a trade, and I do think he's young enough where you're still going to get a few years before his game probably drops off. And yeah, I think
Yeah.
that could be a good ad for the Sabres.
This one, just because I just happened to see his name earlier and he was slotted in for like their fourth line, which actually isn't necessarily a bad spot for him. I feel like he can kind of play up and down the lineup, but just for the sake of it, because he's played for the Sabres before, Evan Rodriguez, any any interest at all? Like,
Uh,
I don't think that would happen, but I just saw his name earlier. I was like, oh, that'll be a fun idea, maybe. maybe bottom six, I guess, but you know.
Even just for nostalgia's sake, it would be fun to have him back because he's someone, yeah, you could just fill out a third line role, maybe even a fourth line with a little bit more tools.
Yeah.
Uh, I just think he's someone who he just seems like an awesome guy to have around in the locker room too. And clearly he's won a lot. I mean, he's played on great teams. He wasn't always like the biggest part of those teams, but
Oh.
he's been a part of winning hockey teams. And
Hmm.
at this stage of his career, he's an NHL veteran. Like he's been around. He's
Yeah.
been in a bunch of different locker rooms. He's been around Crosby. He's been around McKinnon. He's been around Barkov. He knows what it takes to win at this level. And yeah, I think that would be a guy I'd be interested in bringing back just to fill out the lineup. I know depth is kind of not an issue for the Sabres right now. At this point, they're kind of shipping more guys out. But say if a trade comes up where Quinn gets dealt and then a spot opens up for a winger in that part of the lineup, I think he could be a pretty decent ad for the Sabres.
Oh boy. I'm a little upset with you, Walt. Not gonna lie, because my next question was to try to move off of that because we try to do a little speculation and stuff like that, but we're more of like more react to what actually happened versus just throwing out like mock trades and stuff like that for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Um, nothing wrong with that. I'm not, sorry, it sounded like I was trying to judge people that would do that. I don't know who does, but like if anyone does that, totally fine. That's a lot of fun, but that's just not something we really do.
Well, yeah,
Um,
I think we tested out like a mock trade. I think I did it last year on like our account. And I was like,
okay.
these are terrible because if it's a fair trade, you'll have both fan bases just ripping apart the trade and the
Yeah, man.
mentions will be filled with that. If it's a trade that heavily favors the Sabres, you'll get a billion retweets. Everyone will love it. They're like, why
Yeah.
isn't Yarmo doing this right now?
Yeah.
It's just so hard to find that balance because yeah, you can't be realistic when you are realistic, you just get a bunch of
Yeah,
like hate and stuff.
you get
Yeah.
dogpiled, and then it's just like,
Yeah.
dude, like once I think I understand values in the NHL, someone trades frickin' the fourth overall pick for Bowen Byram, which
Yeah,
like,
no, that
and they
too.
they didn't have something pre-locked up, like contract wise, and he says he wants to stay in Chicago for forever, but until pen hits paper, I'm like, guys, that's a risky move. Holy. And so like it's just
Yeah.
like, all right, well there that goes. And then next thing you know, some guy you're like, oh damn, he should probably fetch like a high second, maybe a late first or something like that, and he gets traded for like a late fifth, and you're like, what? Wait, what? What's going on here? So you're just like, what the heck's going on here? So okay, my question is on the Sabres roster from like that's under contract that was on the roster last year that's under contract and would be on the roster this season. Who do you think is the next one to be shipped out? And my personal opinion is Jack Quinn. What about you?
I think for me, I think it's Ryan McLeod.
Oh, okay.
I think if I had to
Okay.
guess one guy right now of like who the next kind of guy to get shipped out that, guy that's like not really overly expected, like a guy that's just
I mean, yeah, he's like a he's someone you can slot in on your third, like you know what you're going to get with him though.
yeah,
More so than other guys. It seems like it might be instead of a peak and a valley, he's more like a little hill and a little dip, you know?
yeah.
Or
Like
instead of peak and a trench, he's a hill and a valley.
I enjoy him as a player. Like I keep him around long term, but I just think the Sabres will see the situation and be like, there's some big fish we want on the market.
Yeah.
McLeod could have used to a lot of these teams. I'm mainly thinking with the Connor Hellebuck interest in Winnipeg, how they're really looking for a depth center.
Yeah.
I just think that makes so much sense for him to be a piece of that trade because his cap hit's not crazy. If the Sabres lose him, they're not losing really anything crazy because he was playing fourth line center for a game or two in the playoffs. He got bumped down
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. They,
And
they
I
put
know
him down there. He
Tuck's
wasn't playing
gone.
great.
So, yeah, Tuck's gone, but Kulik's is back. Oslund's going to be healthy. So there's going to be, even more pieces in the mix and even more centers in the mix because they had Kulik playing center at one point as well. So I don't know.
He
I
was
just think in
center
my
number
mind,
one,
yeah,
like
he
to start
was at
last
one point.
in the preseason last season.
Yeah, that's why I just think McLeod, I think he's like kind of a sleeper pick of a guy that could be moved this offseason if the Sabres kind of go for a bigger fish this offseason.
I will say for Winnipeg, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty confident that Jonathan Taves has retired. And there's your middle six center right there, your third line center right there that just, retired and they could want to fill
Completely
that void.
forgot. Completely
Yep.
forgot he was on that team. Completely forgot he was
Yeah.
still playing hockey.
Yeah, he came back. That was wild, but
Yeah.
yeah, unfortunately it didn't go too well for them. But yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think of what that package could possibly look like if they really are serious about Hellebuck. And I meant to talk about goalies, so I guess we'll start it here. Like, what are your thoughts on Hellebuck? Because I'm just maybe for Hellebuck, maybe I guess, but like I'm just not super willing to trade first round picks for goaltenders, especially after Leonard. But like, I don't know, McLeod, 45. Maybe a solid prospect like a Sturbach or a Kleber. Like again, this is why I don't predict trades because
Yeah.
like someone from Winnipeg's gonna be like, screw you, that's terrible, and someone from Buffalo is gonna be like, hey, you're overpaying, and it's just like, oh my God, sorry. But like, I
Well,
don't
yeah,
know. That's something to maybe explore.
yeah, I'll have a go at this. I know Winnipeg fans will say, "Oh man, we're getting a lot more than that." But at the end of the day, he's a goalie, and goalies don't really have much value in the NHL. Even if they won the Hart Trophy a few years ago, he still was not that great last year. It's been awful in the playoffs. Like one of the worst goalies in the playoffs, like the past two times he was in there. So I think for me, I think like a realistic trade, and I know I'll take heat for this. Hopefully, no Jets fans are tuned in right now. But I think 20th overall, and then I think Ryan McLeod, and I think UPL for Hellebuck, and maybe a third round pick to even out things, or maybe not even a pick at all. But I do think that's kind of the balance for me is where like the Sabres give up stuff, but it's not like an insane amount. Like at 20th overall, like the guys the Sabres are kind of aiming for, like Morozov. I know I didn't earlier, I was supposed to bring up guys the Sabres could draft at 20. I
Oh
forgot
yeah.
to.
Whoops.
But
Whoops.
Ilya Morozov, like from Miami, like that would probably be the guy I think the Sabres would draft at that pick. He's someone who, yeah, interesting traits, but at the end of the day, he's probably gonna be like a third, fourth liner. Like, sure, he'd be cost controlled, but I think if you could get Hellebuck and kind of gamble with that for essentially like two third liners on top of UPL to hope to upgrade on UPL, I think that would be a trade I'd make. And who knows if I'm in the right ballpark for value, but I think for me, I think that would kind of be where I'd be at with that trade. I think the main concern for me at this point is I don't think Winnipeg's at that point where they would accept that trade. I still think they're going to be hunting for something more, but will they get something more? I don't know. Like I can't see Florida parting with Anton Lundell to get Connor Hellebuck. And outside of that, do they have guys that Winnipeg would want more than the Sabres could offer? I guess we'll find out. But I do think the market
Yeah.
on Hellebuck will cool as the offseason progresses once they realize that teams aren't really lining up to part with top young pieces for a 33-year-old goalie.
Yeah, man. I think part of I will say to try to defend Hellebuck is part of the playoffs is they just run him into the ground. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's just, and like that adds on it, like, and you do it year after year and year after, and now, and unfortunately, like, yeah, now probably the playoff thing is a little bit in his head and he's going to play a little bit worse, but like, you know, the whole playoffs thing, you couldn't get in the Sabres head about the playoffs because they never freaking been there. You know what I mean? So like, and look where that went, they went around and were a goal away from, making the next round. So yeah, man, I think that's probably. They might not, Winnipeg fans probably wouldn't like that trade
Yeah.
package,
No, they wouldn't at all.
but at the same time, it's, kind of what leverage do you guys really have? It's just like, all right, we'll just keep a hold of them. It's like, okay, well then you're just gonna keep having Hellebuck and maybe doing whatever, or you could get these pieces and build for the future. So yeah, man. I still don't love doing a first round pick, but I mean, if you're going to do a first round pick for a goaltender, it's, go with someone that at least is Vesna's and Hart. trophy and
Yeah.
gold medal
Well,
winner and stuff like that. They're
I
fine.
kind of just think about like when Askarov was traded because that guy was considered like the perfect goalie prospect. Like
Yeah.
there hasn't been a goalie prospect like him in a while, and he had kind of decent AHL stats, and he really didn't get traded for kind of anything insane. Like I'll
Yeah.
pull up that trade return right here. Uh, Actually, I'm not going to pull up the trade return right here.
Internet's
I'm
going on T.
trying to find the right website. What's like the NHL trade history? But I remember it like not being anything crazy. Like I remember
Yeah, what
seeing
was
that.
it? Yeah, I remember it too, and I remember being like, "Oh, dang, like that would have been nice for the Sabres," but it just didn't. It wasn't going to happen.
All right, I'm
Um,
almost there. It's making me sort by
I miss cap friendly. Cap friendly
alphabetical
would
order.
be nice. Oh yeah, by the way, Washington, like, what do you think they actually do with cap friendly? Is like cap friendly telling you that you need to sign Alex Tuch, after age 30 for 8 years, 10.5 milli? Is that what you got going on there? Cap friendly?
I
Is
don't
that
know.
what's
I
going on?
can't. I still can't believe they stole that service from us. I mean,
I don't have a lot of
they
respect for the Capitals after that one.
okay. I finally pulled up the Askarov trades. Yaroslav Askarov, Nolan Burke, and a 2025 third for David Edstrom, Magnus Krona, and a 2025 first. Like that's.
Yeah,
I know
okay.
David Edstrom's like a former first round pick, but he's not really a first round pick in terms of talent. Like he's like the 32nd overall pick and hasn't been that great in the AHL. He's kind of like a fourth liner. So,
Hmm.
and that's what like a top goalie prospect went for. So I know Hellebuck obviously has a lot more to his resume than a top goalie prospect, obviously,
Yep.
but he's also older and he's also I think NHL front offices are smarter now to be like, oh, he was really good that one game in the Olympics. I think NHL front offices now will be like, oh yeah, but he was like not good for like these like 75 NHL games. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, is it look, Hellebuck's an upgrade from what they have now, regardless of,
yeah,
what happened in the playoffs for him. I mean,
yeah,
look what happened in the playoffs with the Sabres goalies. It wasn't horrific for the most part, besides one specific goal, which every goalie gives up. Just bad timing for UPL, but it wasn't great either. So it's just
yeah. It's
very
just not a super.
delicate.
It's not like I think Winnipeg expects like a superstar prospect in return, like a team's top prospect plus. But
Who's doing that?
yeah, I just don't know if anyone's gonna part with that. So that's kind of why with me with Hellebuck, I kind of think that's gonna be a trade as the offseason progresses. Like I feel like Winnipeg's gonna have to realize at some point, like, what are we even doing right now?
Yeah.
Like, we're kind of just in that dirty middle of the NHL where it's like
Yeah.
you're
The
not good enough to
Bills
win a
of their
cup.
drought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got guys like Shifley obviously is really good, like Velarde, Kyle Connor, but
But
it's like
like,
that's not enough to win a cup though. So it's
mm, that's tough for them. I mean, glad I'm not in their
yeah.
position. We've been in their
Well,
position before,
yeah,
but yeah.
they're not far removed from like an insane NHL regular season too,
Yeah, right. That's crazy. And then
but
just
yeah, like
when it shit
Shifley and
happens.
Hellebuck are getting older. It's
And
I don't know,
Connor.
but
Connor is too.
yeah, yeah. I forgot Kyle Connor too. That 2015 draft
Yep.
class. Yeah, he's getting up there too.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
That's I'm kind of glad we're not a Winnipeg Jets podcast right now because we'd be having
I
like
mean,
much more like complex
they were
conversations on like the meaning on how
they
meaningful.
yeah, they were getting like almost like threatened, kind of like in a way by Bettman basically saying like you guys need to put butts in seats. Like this is
Yeah,
not good, like they are a small market team. The
it's
Sabres
such
know
a
something
small
about small market
market.
teams. Yeah.
Yeah, but they
So it's
make. I think Winnipeg Metro. Another thing. Let me pull up my phone again. I'm pretty sure the Metro population is like crazy tiny.
while
Like
you're
yeah, it's like
looking that up,
950,000. So that's like It's like 80%, 75% of Buffalo's metro, and Buffalo's a really small metro for an NHL team.
Mm-hmm. Passionate fan bases can keep a hockey team there, but if you can't put butts in seats, it's the bottom line. It's like I hate to say it, but when it comes to like politics, it all boils down to the economy. It all boils down for these hockey teams. It all boils down to butts in seats. That's what the Sabres are really struggling with. And then look what happens. So there's a lot of trades in the NHL. Brady Kachuk going to Florida. I freaking hate Florida
Yeah,
so
it's
much.
I
What are
already
your
brought up
thoughts
earlier
on
this
that?
episode, but that NHLers back in the Olympics
S-
may be one of the worst things that has happened to the NHL in some time.
I can't wait for the NHL just to cater to Florida for the umpteenth time. And oh yeah, they just, mugged about a hockey team for 60 minutes straight, but nothing's gonna come
Yeah,
out of it. They're gonna be able to do whatever they want. They're gonna get a kiss on the cheek from the TNT guys, or oh, Brad Marchand, you're so funny. They're all scumbags, dude. Like, let's stop trying to like whitewash how these dudes are actually playing down there. Like, I
I
don't. I
just
have I have more thoughts about hockey in Florida. Let's just say that, but we're gonna save that for another time. Um, yeah, man, it's
yeah,
just
I
so annoying.
think
And I find it disrespectful that you think I want out of Ottawa, and then immediately runs out of Ottawa.
yeah,
Come on, bro. What are we
I
doing?
I just think the way he like his underlying numbers weren't terrible that playoff series. But at the end of the day, he got 0 points in 4 games and they got swept, and he demands a trade out
You're the
like
captain,
a
bro.
week and a half. Yeah, as a captain of a team where he doesn't show up, he demands a trade out of there. It's like I only want to be traded to play with my brother, which severely limits
Which
the
I get.
return
I do
Ottawa
actually
can get.
get. Just want to put that out there. Like, I understand that. Like, that would be any brother's dream to play with their brother. Look at the Hughes brothers. I'm just throwing that out there. Like, I do understand that part. I'm
Just
not
say
gonna
that.
knock
Say
them for
that
that.
for free agency though.
Nah.
Like, don't sign a contract in Ottawa if that's your plan this entire time. Like, that's the sad thing with this is I wonder how many guys like maliciously sign like these no move clauses, knowing that they're going to screw over the team that signed them someday and severely
It's
limit
true.
their return to that new team because it's very beneficial for guys being traded to new teams to limit the cost it takes for that team to acquire them. Like Brady Kachuk limiting the amount of return Ottawa can get from Florida greatly benefits him because Florida's still really good and he joins a team that's really good. And all they had to do is give up like draft picks, which
Yeah. Let's
probably
let's
won't mean
remember
much to this team.
the Florida Panthers lost one of the probably the best two-way player for an entire season for an ACL.
Yeah.
He's coming back. And they added Brady Kachuk. Like, don't expect Florida to be what they were last season.
Yeah,
They're
definitely
coming.
not.
And again, let's remember that the NHL just loves Florida for some reason. I don't know why they just all of a sudden decided that they just love the Florida Panthers so much. Um,
Yeah, I
to
just
to
for
an
me,
absurd degree.
yeah, for me, it's just yeah, it seems like it's like Tampa, Florida, Dallas, Vegas, and Carolina now a little bit, and then Minnesota for some reason seems to be popular with like the Olympic guys on that U.S. team.
It's a
I don't
little
really know
interesting, but
why,
yeah.
but it's just for me. I think hockey. I almost think their fans are like insecure in some ways with like trying to defend the sport, being like, "Oh, these guys play for so much more than just money. These guys play hurt. These guys aren't rolling on the ground like soccer players." But
Yeah.
then you see stuff like this where it's like they can literally start like a hockey league in Saudi Arabia tomorrow and offer $2 million more per year, and half these guys would leave that league. Like these guys don't care about winning a Stanley Cup. These guys don't care about building a legacy. Like I'm not painting all NHL players with the same brush, but there are a
Yeah.
lot of top guys in this league that don't care about the same stuff that NHLers probably cared about even 10, 15 years ago. Like what happened to trying to become an icon in a small market? What happened to all this stuff? Because the game means so much more in Canada than it will ever mean in most US markets. Like you
Dude,
turn
they
on
have to
Sports Center on TSN, it's all NHL highlights. You turn on Sports Center in the US, they're talking about whether LeBron or Kobe is better for like 45 minutes. Like in like November, and yeah, it's just I don't know. I
Yeah,
just feel
man.
like people's the
Well, it's
hockey's almost become too luxurious at this point, where it's just like I just feel like some of these guys just don't care about stuff that fans care about. It's
well,
just
it's
like
also what's this with the hockey players are the toughest players. You know, they play through injury, they break their leg, and they're still out there for their boys. But the fans are mean, and the
yeah.
media is mean. What is going on here? You're the toughest, softest people I've ever met in my life. What is going on here?
Yeah.
Like it, yeah, that part really does like baffle me. And I'm not trying to. The most players aren't like that, but like the players that like it's very clear that like you act like you're a tough player and you're scrapping on the ice. But the second people put a microphone on your face and ask you a tough question, then you're ooh, like easy for me to say. I'm not in that position, but it's just like I don't know, man. Doesn't it just rub you the wrong way? And we're getting way
I
off of Sabres stuff, but like I
I
don't
do
know.
think for like an average fan, I think it absolutely does. And I'm just thinking like anyone that's like, kind of has like a public persona on the internet will be faced with like negative comments every once in a while. Even me as Sabermetrics, like I get stuff too. The difference is I don't have the summer off and I'm not at Muskoka right now and I'm not making $7 million a year. Like I have to go to work tomorrow and be an accountant. Like for me, like it's like yeah,
It's true.
you just gotta let it roll off your back sometimes. So it's
Yeah,
just
man.
like I at some point well, yeah, it's clear like yeah, obviously like negative comments and stuff terrible and it will affect people, but
Yeah,
I just think the
sucks.
NHL can't put forward this persona where it's like, oh yeah, we're tougher than anyone else, and then have when going gets tough, you
Well,
like cry and like demand a trade to play with their brother. With like Dylan Larkin, can't get his team in the playoffs, chokes every year down the stretch,
yeah, and
and
now
then
he's
he
like
wants out.
for
It's
to three specific teams, and it's all teams that like
yeah,
are
it's just
essentially super teams, and it's just like, do you need a pacifier? Is that what it is?
yeah,
Is that what's going on here,
it's
baby?
just like the lamest stuff ever. Where it's like at the end of the day, this is like a product for fans, and as a fan right now, I think the product is terrible. Like
Yeah,
NHL right now, I think is
I couldn't.
probably one of the worst majors. Like I'm biased because the Sabres are good. That's the only thing like kind of holding me back from being like the NHL is probably doing the worst of all the major sports right now in terms of like marketing it to fans. But
They
it
are.
honestly
Be
is like
honest.
up there.
Carolina versus Vegas Stanley Cup final. I'm sorry, that just didn't interest me. I'm sorry. Like if you found it interesting,
Yeah,
that's great. And it's still a Stanley Cup final, hats off to Carolina. They won it fair and square, whatever. But like I just
yeah. We're just. I think we're just trending towards the point where it's like it feels like the teams like aren't even important anymore. Like the cities where the teams are. Like it almost feels like hockey's trending to a point where it's going to be like kind of like how that lacrosse league, that pro outdoor lacrosse league, when that started, is literally just like different team names, and then they like rotated like what city they would play in, like every week. Like that's kind of how I feel with like the NHL at this point, where it's like it doesn't feel like these teams have much like ties to their actual cities. At least the teams that are good right now, it kind of seems like like a mishmash of talent acquired for cheap because all these guys have no move
because they could.
clauses and
Yeah.
yeah, only want to go to two teams and they just
Uh,
happen to play in Vegas. Like it doesn't
yeah.
really feel like oh yeah, these guys play that Vegas style of hockey. Like what even is Vegas as a city? like I
Like, well, and also to your point, it's just like, where is the like you'd rather be like the sixth best player and never have to talk to the media in the locker room or whatever. Like, where's the pride of being like you're the best player on the team, or you're like the leader of the team, or you're like one of the top two players on the team, Darlene and Tage and stuff like that. You don't see them running and crying. Like Darlene, there was rumors that he sat down and be like, "What are we doing here?" That's different versus some guy who's like, I was a captain of this team or whatever. Now I'm gonna go be someone where like I can go walk down the beach on a
yeah.
random Tuesday and no one knows who I am. It's just like congratulations for you, happy for you, I guess. But like, let's not act like that's a softer move.
Well,
Let's just be honest about it.
Yeah, I just think look at like the sport equivalent in Buffalo and a much bigger sport nationally with the NFL. Like I just think about Josh Allen. Like the hockey equivalent of Josh Allen had demanded a trade to the LA Rams like before Stafford got there. like,
Yeah.
I just think yeah, it's just like yeah, I just don't think hockey has like any ground to stand on anymore after what's happened so far this offseason to be like, oh yeah, our sport's like more authentic than your sport. These guys play it
No.
for the love of the game. Like they clearly don't. They clearly play it for the money. They play it to be in a comfortable situation. They don't play it to have a great legacy by leading like the Ottawa Senators to a Stanley Cup. And I do think there are still guys in this league who genuinely do care about that.
Yeah,
I think
for sure.
Buffalo has a few of them, and even I like in Montreal too. Guys like Caulfield and Hudson, like these guys genuinely seem to care about bringing a championship to Montreal specifically. Like they don't
Yep.
seem to be in it for themselves. So, but it's just the top guys in this league, or at least some of the top guys, that kind of spoil it for the rest of everyone else. Where it's like, I just don't know where this league is heading, and I do think there's going to have to be some discussions to kind of put up more safeguards for teams that may not be able to easily acquire talent like teams like Vegas can and Florida can. Like, I think one thing
Maybe,
would be just getting rid of the draft lottery. Like, it should be straight up worst team gets the first overall pick. I feel like that would be one way to kick things off.
and then you got the tanking problem and stuff like that. And
But you
yeah, I
need
mean,
the
maybe
tanking
we
problem is just a
just
downstream effect of this team doing nothing
yeah.
in regards to anything else, with teams being able to hoard talent through tax advantages and weather advantages and whatnot.
Maybe we just need our, player on the Sabres to bring their father on a podcast and very clearly call out the starting goalie
yeah.
and then act completely, how dare you? That's not what he was saying at all. Saying, okay. I mean, it was. So thanks for lying to us. But yeah, moving on. So yeah, I mean, uh, not a lot of respect for Florida and how that all goes about, and it's just it's the fake. Oh, you guys are just so much. How did you do this? Wow, that was so impressive. And it's just like, yeah, tax advantages, and they all freaking have no movement clause, and they're all going to the same place. Like, stop acting like that's super impressive. Like these GMs of these teams are like masterminds. It's like, no, I want to go to Vegas, make it work. Okay, well, I'm going to lowball you because I can. Well, we have to say yes, so yes. Oh, wow, Florida's so great. Wow, congratulations. Like, what are
Yeah.
we doing here? I don't know, man. It just,
I almost want to go so extreme. Well, I know it would like hurt the Sabres because obviously we're a small market, but there shouldn't be a salary cap in the NHL if they're not going to
mm.
adjust for these tax advantages. Like let teams spend through the roof. Like let a team with higher taxes spend more money than a team in Florida, a team in Texas, because the flat cap screws over the teams that don't have these advantages that the
Well,
other
don't,
teams have.
if you're Paul Bissonnette, don't say that to Gary Bettman because he's going to jump down your throat on national TV when you're
yeah.
clearly right. I'm not exactly a Paul Bissonnette fan, but when he's right, he's right. And he was right to be like, hey, man, this is a pretty widely discussed topic about taxes and blah, blah, blah. And Gary's like, again, like this fake outrage, where it's like, he's right, though.
Yeah.
He's right. And so
Well,
it's just, look, I
it's
mean,
like let the teams that make a ton of money spend a lot of money because those are the teams where the sport gets the most interest when they are good. Like let Toronto be good. Let the Blackhawks be good. Let the Bruins be good. Like
it
I
does
almost
that does hurt the Sabres, though. So at least you're being fair. Like
yeah.
you're saying something
I
that might
know.
not be
Yeah.
popular, but you're being honest about it. So
Yeah.
because
I
it would
always
hurt the
feel like
Sabres.
yeah, on a Sabres related show, but I just like think about just as a hockey fan, like I just miss the days of I don't know, like the Flyers Blackhawks Cup finals where it felt
Yeah,
like
man. Oh,
it's just like
Carolina, Vegas. Oh yeah. Like I have a buddy that's a Vegas fan, and if he hears this, he's gonna be like, "Hey, man, how dare you?" But I'm not talking about it. Like it just
it's just like the history of like those sports cities that we have where it's like, oh yeah,
sucks.
these guys like my grandpa was at a Flyers Blackhawks game in like 1975. Like it's just like we don't have that history anymore in the NHL with the top teams, where it's just kind of feels almost plastic in some ways, where it feels like a startup league. And even though some of these teams have been around now for 30 years,
It's just not the
it's
same.
yeah, it's just I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm whining too much here, but
We are. Yeah, we are.
yeah, I'm just thinking about it just from like my personal perspective of trying
Yeah.
to enjoy the sport, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the
I,
thing I love about. I mean, you probably see a bunch of like baseball stuff behind me. Like that's the stuff I love about baseball is that all these teams are so historic, and I love like the history of the game and how a lot of these franchises have been around forever, and about how when some guy breaks a record, like it has been the franchise record since like
32.
58 or yeah
Yeah.
1932 or I, I just think the NHL right now is just feels like they can't get out of their own way in terms of trying to cement themselves as a top four sport. And even with the World Cup going on in the US and
Yeah.
Canada
MLS is
recently,
gonna.
yeah, that kind of makes me think like just around here, uh, even with all the immigrants from countries where soccer is their first sport, like there's a bunch of people from Colombia and Brazil over where I live right now. And it's like, how is hockey going to like appeal to these communities when they can't seem to get out of their own way? And, sports like soccer seem to be doing a much better job at kind of connecting communities. And I, I
Well,
don't know.
then
Like,
then you
yeah,
have
it's
like
just,
let's be honest, like TNT broadcast it is what it is. I think it's solid, but then you have the ESPN one. It's like, do you guys even care? Send us back to
yeah,
NBCSN if this is how it's going to be. Those ESPN broadcasts, they suck. They
yeah.
suck, dude. Like, then let's go back to Mark Messier and PK Subban. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, it's
nothing
just
against those guys, I
hockey.
guess, but like, oh,
I, I thought too. I thought the ESPN deal would honestly lead to more coverage on ESPN. Like it really hasn't. Like some of these
no, it
playoff games
sucks.
didn't even have pregame shows on the channel. They showed the actual
No.
game on, and yeah, it's just kind of disappointing as like a hockey
Sucks,
fan
man.
because for me, I never really had to be like a new fan because for me, it was like the first sport I discovered. Like I remember just being
Yeah,
like a
same.
little kid,
Yeah,
like 3 years old. I saw like my dad's hockey equipment in the basement. I was like, "Oh, what was that? Like, what's this stuff?" And then
yeah.
my dad showed me his hockey cards, and then yeah, he took me to like
It's
Sabres games. So for me,
it's
it's
all
like
over from
always,
there.
yeah, for me, it was the sport. Like for like the first like 4 years of my life, I didn't know any other sports existed until later on. So for me, I never really grew up caring about how popular hockey is to other people because it didn't matter. Because to me, it was
It
the
was just
most
everything, yeah.
popular sport, the one I cared about the
Mhm.
most. But like as you get older and you kind of think more about like the long term viability of this league, or you want to like go in the office and talk to a coworker about hockey, like it becomes harder when the league can't get out of their own way. And you see like the Knicks winning the NBA finals, the city going crazy, like history being made. New York Knicks versus a future superstar in Wembanyama, and then the NHL is just 32-year-old guys that demanded a trade out of their smaller market team to one of these superpowers, and they just go head to head. Like, I know Carolina doesn't fit that description, but I'm mainly just talking about Vegas and Florida here.
Yeah. And it's Vegas and Florida in this cup final the entire time. They're going against Edmonton, which we can don't get me started about Edmonton. Just the dumbest franchise around. I thought the Sabres were. No, it's Edmonton, dude.
I
Speaking of sucking, like I'd rather
yeah,
watch ESPN on a 24-hour loop than have to be like an Edmonton Oilers fan, especially one
I
that
th-
has like any sensibility at all. Because you see that guy that they just hired, and you're just like, what the are we doing?
yeah. Yeah, because I think like tying this like all back to kind of like the Buffalo Sabres, where it's
Yeah, we
like
should probably do that.
it's going to be tough for the Sabres to win a Stanley Cup in the current landscape of the league. Like I know it's not always going to be like this. Maybe the next generation of players will care more about, kind of sticking around with the teams that drafted them, kind of sticking around near markets they grew up in. Uh, Maybe that'll happen someday, but I think this really shows like how important every single move is for the Sabres team. Like they have to really avoid mistakes with these trades they end up making this offseason, because I know there's more to come, and
Yep.
they really have to dial it in and make sure they're extremely efficient. And I think they really have to recognize their spot in the NHL as a franchise too. Like, I think you have to look at this fourth overall pick and be like, if we really like a guy here, will we be able to get a guy at this talent level in free agency? Or will we be able to trade for this guy when he has a full no move clause when he's 27 years old? Maybe not. So I think all this stuff has to kind of come into your thought process this offseason, and you kind of really have to embrace the fact that your team plays in Buffalo, New York. We don't play in South Beach. Like, I may be sounding like Kevin Adams right now, but I do think
Yeah,
there was
but
some truth to what he said.
we will say it again. He wasn't wrong. We just don't want to hear it from the top salesman for the
Yeah.
Buffalo Sabres. Okay. We can say it. Everyone else can say it. Please, Kevin, you aren't the one to say it, and like whatever. But yeah, and let me reiterate something I say all the time is you're the Buffalo Sabres. You have no choice. You have to draft well. That's why
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily willing to trade one of the first round picks unless you're getting like a Nyes or something like that, or Robertson, if that ends up being the case, which I think is probably less likely, let's be honest. Bob Tom or Robert Thomas. I just love saying Bob Tom. I should have just made the trade for that reason. Um, he's probably off the table too. So maybe it's just like Nyes or something like that. But you're the Sabres. You have to draft well. You just do. You have to have cost control because free agents still, no matter what, even like unless you are winning cups or going to the conference final or cup final and maybe losing or something like that. And like they got close, so like they're not super far, but it's still Buffalo, like you said. There's no palm trees. Again, like we are well aware of it. You didn't need to say it, Kevin. Thank you. Like that's
Yeah.
he wasn't wrong. Oh, time and place, pal.
Well, yeah, the Sabres have been around for like, I mean, almost 60 years at this point, which is pretty crazy to think about. And there haven't been
That's
many
tough.
Sabres teams where they're cup contenders because they're able to sign all the top free agents one off season. Like, they're mainly cup contenders because they get an absolutely steal of a trade, like before a guy
And a
becomes
goalie.
good. Yeah, kind of like the Hasek trade where you trade for the guy before he's
Yeah.
considered good, or even a trade. I mean, more recently, not Hasek level, but like a Josh Stone trade, or going back a Danny Briere type trade where you
Mhm.
get great
Yep.
value out it, or it's just drafting. Like, I just think about those 05, 06 teams. I mean, look at some of
Yep.
these guys weren't extremely high picks like Roy and Pominville, and then you hit on that high Vanek pick, and then Campbell's a late pick. He turns into a true number one defenseman. Like, every good Sabres team has been good because of stuff like that. Well, like, we'll never be like Vegas where this team is good because they got a Jack Eichel who demanded a trade out of his team. They got a Mark Stone who didn't want to re-sign with Ottawa. They got a Mitch Marner who only wanted to get traded to Vegas, and they tampered with him while he was still a Maple Leafs player. Like,
Oh no, they
Buffalo,
would never
yeah,
do that. They would never do that. Vegas would never do it. Sorry.
Buffalo will never in a million years get those same opportunities that those teams get. So that's why every offseason I see like, oh, well, Vegas wasn't afraid to trade their first round pick to get better. Oh, Florida wasn't. Well, yeah,
Yeah, and it's just like,
the cost for guys is also a lot lower because they traded for guys that only wanted to go to one team. And they also have the ability to continually do this perpetually. Like,
yeah,
they could suck, and it's still Vegas and Florida. Like, Florida had a down year, it's still the Florida Panthers. Like, they're still
yeah,
getting guys there. If Buffalo had a down
yeah,
year like that, they'd be screwed for this entire offseason. They'd be
yeah.
like, oh, this team probably isn't good anymore.
And let's remember, I hate being this guy, but if this is gonna sound so like snarky, but this is a winter sport, and that means you're playing your season in the winter. Would you rather spend that in Winnipeg or Buffalo or cold Montreal or Toronto, or would you rather spend it where it's still 70 and sunny
Yeah,
out in LA, Vegas, Florida, Tampa, Carolina, Dallas? I get it. I get it, man. I
yeah.
do.
Like,
Like I
that's
do understand that.
that's kind of the thing with the
So,
changing landscape of the NHL, with the league
yeah.
making more money and players making more. Is it's not like a lunch pal sport anymore. Like, it's not like 1970 where NHL players like, upper middle class or like upper class, but not that upper class. And they're kind of living like a regular guy life. Like at this point, I mean, these guys are living on like mansions in like South Beach and Tampa. And, they probably don't even have to cook their own food. Like it's just so different than
No.
like the NHL used to be. So I think that also plays a role into things, but it also plays a role into, how I really think Gary Bettman needs to address kind of just like the team equality in the sport. And
Or
I
does
don't, yeah,
I think Gary Bettman just stay status quo until the end and be like, let the
yeah,
next
he
person handle it.
100% will because this is his
Yeah.
project. His project was getting these Sunbelt teams to be good, and
Whoops, overcorrected
yeah,
because now it's super annoying where it's just I don't know.
yeah,
We've gone over that enough. We're gonna get to even more complaining, at least on my end, about that. But again, let's get back to the Sabres just to round things out. They are not done. We are expecting more deals, more whatever. Very exciting next 48 to 72 hours ish, and then leading into free agency. Walt, final word on everything that's coming up. I know this is kind of an incomplete product. They've done a lot of selling. Now they're going to be bringing people in, we assume. What do you say? What's your final word?
I think for me, I think there's more coming. I know I said this earlier today, and I got a comment from friend of the show, Alex Jones, legendary Sabres
Oh,
commenter.
shout out. Shout
Yeah.
out. Called it before everyone else. Shout out.
Yeah, saying that's all speculation. And I'm like, I don't think I've ever gotten more like DMs and text on my phone regarding potential Sabres move than I had like the past 24 hours. I think there's
Yeah,
more
it's wild.
stuff coming. And yeah, the Yarmo era is a different era than previous GM eras. And I
Yeah.
think the Terry Pagula of the Yarmo era is 100% different than previous eras. And I think that may be the most important part of the Yarmo era is the fact of how different Pagula is in this era.
They got their stadium done too.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's all wrapped up. His
Stadium
focus might be back
done.
on let's do
Yeah,
this.
like ribbon cutting ceremony.
Hmm.
Next up, stadium wise, will be the Sabres renovations.
Hmm.
Probably saw how much money this team made during that playoff run. I think they had what? They had they had like 8 home or no, how many home
Uh,
playoff games do they have? Seven
they
home
had
playoff games?
yes, they had oh
Yeah,
my
they had
God. No, they had
7.
three the first round and then four the second. Yeah, so seven.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
sorry.
yeah, that had to just downtown was rocking every single home playoff game. All the businesses around the arena were doing well, and surely Sabres business was doing well too. You had people getting to the arena. I forget however I got there before the Beer Saber game, but I was out there before the arena opened. You have people sprinting in to spend money on the Sabres. Like I feel like now that he finally got a taste of that, where it's
Yeah.
like
So
we're in a different era of Sabres hockey now.
yeah, which is exciting. And Yarmo's the one leading it, and he's aggressive. And yes, sure, it is speculation until something actually happens. And it seems like where there's smoke, there's fire. Nothing's done until it's done. But we do expect the Sabres to add. Who that is, or what that is, or what the package is, we're gonna find out. Hopefully, whenever that happens, Spectrum doesn't go down. Actually, I think it has just come back up. So great timing on my part. Um, but
God praise Baldman from Jeff. I think so far this off season, Yarmo deserves the praise.
well,
He's been
he's a
on
cold
one
killer.
so far.
He's a
Yeah,
cold killer.
I do think I forgot to bring this up earlier, but I think the difference between him and Adams is I heard today about how Yarmo really juiced out that Byram return by shopping around and he got teams to like kind of fight against each other and drive up
Mhm.
that price for the Sabres. Like this is pure speculation on my part, but every Adams trade kind of seemed like he didn't do that. And I'm mainly thinking about that Cousins trade for Norris at the deadline. Like that just felt so forced. And how did they not give up a second round pick in that deal when it was clear that trade at worst was even for both teams,
Yeah.
especially with the two defensemen going the other way. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that'll be my final comment. But yeah, I do think this Yarmir is just different.
I'm looking forward to it, man. Finally, not an off season where I'm like, Walt, tell me about the draft picks. We're actually talking
Yeah.
about stuff. This is
Yeah.
exciting.
We're talking about the
So look,
draft picks, and we're talking about making a big swing for a guy without maybe having to go out that draft pick. Like, it's like we're in the best spot possible right now.
best spot possible. Again, is very important that they draft well. Unfortunately, live stream for the draft that won't be happening this year. You are busy Friday, then I'm busy all Saturday, and it's just one of those things where it's just not going to work out. I'm thinking probably next week though, especially either be after the draft but before free agency or after free agency starts, maybe a day or two. We're definitely going to try to get back on and discuss what's going on there and get a better scope of where the Sabres are at. It feels like they've gotten to a certain point, but now, that was the selling point. And now it's like, okay, now we need to add, and we'll be able to discuss those and analyze those. So, Walt, one final word before we hop on out of here.
I think my final word is that I've kind of already started this campaign, but I'm joining the campaign of keep 4, trade 20.
Okay. I'm on that same train. I'm sure everyone else is. Walt, you're going to be the one that has to end this thing. So this could be a really awkward 15 seconds for folks, but we appreciate you tuning in. And we will talk to you guys on the next one.
It's taking me a little bit.